All right, here we go. It's me again, your friendly tech geek. So welcome to day 4 of my live challenge. This is getting slightly easier every day, just like slightly, not like all the way, but slightly easier every day. So I'm Temani, and I help motivated individuals regain control of their day-to-day finances, develop healthy financial habits, achieve financial stability and well-being utilizing some budget software that I built called DAYROL. So DAYROL is, as you know, trademarked, did you hear it? Trademarked budgeting software designed to help you kind of set your customized budgets, track expenses, manage bill due dates, and analyze your spending trends. So we are on day 4 of this whole live journey, as well as the journey to 1 million users. And day 1 was all about just genuine gratitude for all of the folks who have been following this journey, who've been along for the ride, who've been reading my novel length Instagram post and my Facebook post and just rooting me on. Day 2 was essentially kind of a what makes DAYROL special, what makes it stand out, what makes it unique in the market. Day 3 was setting up a budget based on some feedback that I got from a college student who was making $15 an hour and just kind of wanted some support and some guidance. We took a deep dive yesterday, in case you missed it, into the app itself, and it was exciting, to say the least. So on day 4, how are we spending this time together? So there are many pieces to the DAYROL story, and today we're sharing, I guess, the key moment in DAYROL's history that kind of propelled me to where I am right now, and that is the decision to leave the classroom. Dum dum dum. No, I gotta work on my sound effects. So before I start, if you are a teacher, just know, 1, you are highly appreciated, loved, and respected. It is hands down the hardest thing that I have ever done in my entire existence. Like, it is harder than being a parent. It is harder than being a brother, a sister, a daughter. It is, being a teacher is the hardest thing that you could possibly ever do. So if you are still teaching, if you are still in the field, if you are planning to become a teacher, you all deserve everything that is good that life has to offer. Honestly, you deserve 6-figure salaries for the work that you do and the way in which you show up for kids. I have just a tremendous amount of respect for teachers, and if I'm ever in a place where people are like, teachers make too much or teachers shouldn't be paid during that, I'm like, whoa, 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 buddy. If you've never been a teacher, I just need you to stop. Like, because you don't know the half. So thank you again for all you do, and for existing in the ways that you do, and for supporting kids and seeing the larger vision of making sure that the next generation of young people can exist in the world and bring their best selves to any space that they enter into. So let's take a step back though. So this actually goes back to my years in college. When I was in college, I went back and forth for a very long time between 2 majors. I can remember sitting on Rosalind's couch and over in the Ferg, for my UA folks, over in the Ferg, kind of talking about whether or not I wanted to stick with my education major. I mean, I probably had, I don't even know, 70 plus conversations just after class. I would go lay on the couch and say, Rosalind, like, today is not the day. I think today's the day where I'm going to go change it to computer science. I'm going to change it to MIS. I wanted to do anything but stay in education. but I had wanted to be a teacher for so long, like since the 2nd grade. I think my mom probably still has a paper or something that I wrote that said, like, I want to be a teacher because teachers are responsible for everybody else, like the astronauts, the engineer, they're, you know. So I was super motivated to become a teacher, and so I stayed in education. I decided to stick it out, graduated, and got my first job in a middle school in Tuscaloosa. So from a financial standpoint, I knew how much teachers made, but I didn't know I knew how much teachers made, but I didn't know how much teachers made. Meaning, I had no idea, kind of from a purely financial standpoint, how the decision to become a teacher would impact my day-to-day life and my day-to-day finances. Call it naive, call it like immature, call it whatever you want it. I just did not have that context to make the most well-informed decision about my career. And so I chose my passion, I chose children, I chose the ability to see a kid's face light up when they learn something new. Like that for me was my driver and my motivation. So if you know me, I taught middle school and high school English for about 6 years in both public and charter schools, and I loved every single minute of it. I mean, I built some of the best relationships with students, with families, and a ton of which that I kind of still maintain to this day. So hello, all my big babies out there. I still love you, and I hope you're doing fantastic in your respective careers or whatever it is that you're doing with your lives. So moving forward, as many of you know, there are just so many challenges in education, from resource constraints to high student needs, and I'm talking like emotional, academic, and social needs. There is the opportunity gap, which we used to call an achievement gap, which we know it's not about achievement, it is definitely opportunity. There is the red tape that's associated with all of the decision making that goes into what you can and cannot teach, the experiences you can and cannot offer students, the meetings, the policies, the state requirements. There's consistently changing standards and conversations about what's old and what's new, and the use of technology and goodness, there are just so many things that impact a teacher's day-to-day experience that is not just showing up for kids every day. And so again, I think I said this at the beginning, but it is hands down the hardest thing I've ever done, period. Like all of the things that I had to juggle, all of the commitments that were a part of my existence. In the role that I'm in now, I do far less work than I have ever done as a teacher. Does that mean I don't work hard in my field? Of course not. Like, I work hard. I'm an overachiever. Like, that goes without saying. But just the mental capacity and the mental load for being an educator, I don't think there's any profession that can go toe to toe with it. So despite all the challenges, the singular reason why I decided to leave the classroom came down to one thing, and that was finances. I just didn't make enough money to sustain myself, my son, my home, and all of my own personal responsibilities. And so my single mom, former foster kid, unmarried, math just wasn't mathing. Like, it just didn't make sense for me to stay in the classroom given all of the financial constraints that I was kind of putting on myself. And don't get me wrong, my first year I made, I think I said this in the first live, I made $36,000, like $36,000 with a bachelor's degree and just first year on the track, trying to figure it out and make sure that I could bring my best self to kids. But also that was like the most money I had ever made in my life. So it didn't really initially click that like that was not necessarily a huge amount of money, or it would not be enough to sustain, like I said, myself, my son, or my home, like my normal bills. And so in terms of just complete transparency, when I left the classroom, and this is after 6 years of experience with a master's degree, I left making $36,000. I mean, I left making $46,000. I came in at 36, I left at 46. 6 years, a master's degree, and that was kind of the end of what that experience was financially. I think I remember on my, like, there's a step scale that if you're a teacher, you're familiar with it, but it essentially says if you have this degree and this amount of experience, here's where you fall on this ladder. So there is no, you're a great teacher and you show up every day and you work really, really hard, so here's this bonus or here's this like negotiation talk. No, it's like, look at this paper and see where you land. And so I say all that to say it was perhaps like the most challenging decision that I had to make. But when I thought about my own personal life, there was no money for savings or vacations or trips or fun or celebrations or anything. And I knew that I was like constantly like robbing Peter to pay Paul. I was constantly borrowing money from my mama. Shout out to you, mama, for always holding it down. Like always, borrowing money from my mama just to make it to the finish line. It was awful. It was a terrible experience, and yet I had to get up every single day and still try to be the best version of Miss Beck I could be, so that my kids could reach whatever milestones or goals that we had in place. And so I also remember this moment of looking at that pay schedule and recognizing that I would have to teach probably like 15 years and get an EDS before I would reach like a $70,000 salary. Like, and don't get me wrong, when you choose teaching, you 100% choose impact. I just could not afford to continue to choose impact. I had to figure out a way where I could continue a path toward impact, but also be able to sustain, again, my own personal existence. And so in terms of pay schedule, I was paid once a month. And I gripe about once a month, but really being at the pay that I was as a teacher taught me the most basic fundamentals of managing my money, figuring out, I had no choice. It was like, you got to know where this money is going. You have to know exactly how you're spending it. You have to know exactly what it is that you are bringing in, what's going out, and to whom. And so I just remember the moments, and this is like the anxiety that's associated with not necessarily having enough all the time, but I remember moments where I would have to be like waiting for my paycheck to drop, like literally waiting for it to drop, just because I ran out. Like, it was not enough, and there was not enough budgeting or planning or intentional spending in the world that would have closed the gaps that I was experiencing financially. And I tell people all the time, there's no way you can budget yourself out of poverty. There's no way you can budget yourself out of a low income. Like, it is about skill improvement. It is about securing, either starting your own business or securing higher paying jobs. Like, that is the only way to increase your income, increase your revenue. There's not a budget you can create that will make that happen for you. So okay, let's go back. So I was working really, really hard as a teacher. As I said, at one point, I think I might have been like the poster child for good teaching. I posted about it on my Instagram. I posted about it on my Facebook. I celebrated my kids. I went to their events. I mean, if you're a good teacher, you don't just show up as a good teacher. Like, it takes hard work, it takes prayer, it takes planning, it takes intentionality, it takes like a laser focus on a desire for kids, a genuine desire for them to be successful, from them to go from point A to point B to point C, and whatever it is that you want them to experience and learn and be invested in. I was all about building authentic relationships with kids, with their families. I mean, I just did everything I could to make sure that no child was left behind. And I hate to use oh my gosh, but I did everything I could to make sure that every kid, when I walked in the classroom, they hopped on the train with me and they were headed in the same direction. It was like direly important for me to make that their reality. I used to tell them all the time, you spend 8 to 10 hours of your day here with me. Like, I'm not gonna make this miserable for you. This is gonna be the most exciting time that you have in the space, sharing and learning about whatever it is that was the content for the day. But in terms of my work-life balance, I mean, I was literally going to work, and then I was teaching my little heart out, and I was carrying a duffel bag of things that I had to do at home, because the planning wasn't necessarily the most efficient time to do things. There was always other things that needed to be done during planning. I was doing some type of side hustle, which I've been completely transparent about that as well. Like, I was door dashing, I was tutoring, I was grub hubbing, I was doing like photography and building web, anything I could think of to just generate a little bit more money to cushion what was already a really tight budget. And then on top of that, I had to like come home from doing that to plan my lessons and cross-check that materials were ready for the day, cook dinner, help Dallas with his homework. I mean, it was just completely overwhelming. And then it was rinse and repeat. Like, you finished that day, you got up and you did it all over again. And so that doesn't even take into account being responsible for an activity. So if you, at one point in time, I was responsible for the cheerleading team, and that meant an additional time commitment for making sure that they had practices and they were able to go to games, and that I waited until the last parent picked up, and I scheduled events that brought the team closer to get, like, mind-blowing how much time and investment goes into the work that teachers, coaches, people who are responsible for children on a day-to-day basis experience. So into the decision. So one year, the district that I was working in, we got news that we were going to be going through a rezoning, and that essentially just meant we were going to be dispersed across the district based on how the district determined the new zones, or technically the government determined the new zones would be. And so it was, distinctly remember being like a big decision day. It kind of felt like draft day, where we all were finding out what district or what school we were going to be going to. And so we received our papers, we received the new placements, we were charged with packing up our classrooms, and just like that we were moving and starting over, like completely over, in a new school, in a new place. And this is at the close of my 6th year in education. And so at the time I was in 6th grade, and I had a desire to move back to 8th grade. I absolutely positively love teaching 6th grade, but 8th grade, chef's kiss, they're like God, sent from heaven. They are like, they're the perfect level of like, I'm an adult and I make adult decisions, but actually they're not. They're really just kids who think they're adults because they're gonna go to high school. But they just brought a certain level of maturity that I missed in terms of working with 8th graders. And so I had mentioned it to my existing principal, and I had mentioned it to the new principal of the school I was going into, to see if I could possibly like shift back into an 8th grade role. I mean, everything was lined up perfect, like comfort zone, just perfect. Every 8th grade, new school, stuff's being moved, and we closed out the school year, heading into the summer. And I distinctly remember the day where I received a phone call from a really good friend of mine who knew I had kind of an interest in computer science and tech geeky stuff. They just so happened to be at a career fair, and he ran across a booth, and he essentially, they were advertising a coding boot camp, and he called me and he was like, I don't know what you're doing right now, but I need you to stop what you're doing and come down here and talk to these people. Like, they are offering something that I think you would be interested in. Stop what you're doing and come down now. And so I went down to the career fair, no idea what it was. I was just like, are you sure? You know, I went down, and in doing so, I made a decision that changed my life forever. I made a tough decision, a risky decision, and a quick decision, because it was literally 2 months. I had the month that school ended, which would have been May to August, to make kind of a transition. And so I can say, if it wasn't for this particular friend, I probably would not be sitting in this exact spot that I'm sitting in today. So to that friend, thank you so much. Much appreciation, and I owe you so much gratitude, and again, appreciation for calling me and saying, hey, looking out for me, saying, hey, this is something you're interested in, here's a pathway that you can take to actually get there. So in terms of the decision itself, I mean, I got the full gamut of feedback. I had people who were like, oh, you're gonna rock this out, you're gonna be great, it's gonna be phenomenal. And then I had others who were like, are you sure? Like, this is a terrible decision to leave your comfortable teaching job. Like, this is the worst decision that you could possibly ever make. And so I, at the end of the day, kind of had to do what was best for myself and for my family, and to give Dallas and now Dakota the best life that I could potentially offer them. And so we're going to talk about what that best life looks like, or how my life has changed since leaving the classroom. But my hope is that you'll come back tomorrow for us to have that conversation. Again, we're going to get into exactly what my life looks like now, the leap into technology, and a little bit more motivation behind why DAYROL, my motivation for why DAYROL exists. In the meantime, I just want to pause here. You know, I start the day and end the day with gratitude. So I want to thank everyone who's been a part of the journey, who's hopped on the journey, hopped on the train for this journey, who's joined the beta experience, who's joined the community, who has followed DAYROL on Instagram. That's a thing now, since people are actually following the Instagram. So if you haven't, dayrol.app, we're on Instagram. Who've subscribed to my YouTube channel, or even just sent people messages, or me or others, about DAYROL, like, hey, there's this application that is used for budgeting, that is allows you to manage your day-to-day expenses in a user-friendly way. So here, take it. Like, sis is awesome. The app is awesome. Thank you for those recommendations. I appreciate it. We are very close to production. We're not there yet. I know. We're close. We're close. And then I can stop passing out this beta link and actually send folks to production. But thank you, thank you, thank you again. And without further ado, I will see you back here for day 5 tomorrow. Oh, wait. So I have a special giveaway that's coming up. So hopefully you will actually come back tomorrow, and it's going to be for folks who are interested in tech and possibly don't know where to start. But I am excited to share the information about that giveaway. We'll share it in one of the lives that are coming up soon, but I think that is all for now. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you back in shared spaces tomorrow. Peace out, y'all.